News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Dan Schwartzman. We check markets all day long here at Bloomberg. Heightened geopolitical worries sending stocks lower, the Dow losing more than 0.5%, while the S&P 500 and NASDAQ both dropped by 0.3%. The 10-year yield is at 4.072, the 2-year at 3.467. Gold went back over $5,000 an ounce, while Bitcoin is over $67,000. The U.S. continues to grow its forces in the Middle East to put pressure on Iran, with the aircraft carrier Gerald R. Ford, the world's largest warship, heading into the region to join the carrier Abraham Lincoln, as well as hundreds of fighter jets and refueling tankers, giving President Trump the option for a major attack against the Islamic Republic. Trump discussed the nuclear talks.
Good talks are being had. It's proven to be, over the years, not easy to make a meaningful deal with Iran. We have to make a meaningful deal. Otherwise, bad things happen. But we have to make a meaningful deal. But
that's President Trump speaking in Washington. Meanwhile, the Financial Times reporting that the UK government is reluctant to allow the US to use British air bases for an attack on Iran, believing the UK could then be complicit in violating international law. Trump also convening his Gaza Board of Peace this morning for the first time, with representatives from more than 40 countries and observers from a dozen more. Trump said 9 members agreed to pledge $7 billion for the Gaza relief package, while the U.S. will donate $10 billion. Trump talked about possible peace in the region.
For years, you've been hearing about peace in the Middle East, and everybody's saying it's impossible. All of these countries are working together around the vision of a Middle East that is free from the curse of extremism and terror.
The president also says Hamas will be harshly met if they don't give up weapons. Disgraced former Prince Andrew, the brother of the UK's King Charles III, was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office after further details emerged about his relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Bloomberg's Tiwa Adebayo talks about the fall of the former prince.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is a member of the royal family in terms of lineage, but officially he was stripped of his royal titles back in October 2025. Again, that is not an action with historical precedents. There were even legal questions raised here in the UK about removing a title like that granted at birth. And he has been the subject of a lengthy fall from grace. It was also in October last year that King Charles asked him to move out of the Royal Lodge. That's the home that he shared with his ex-wife, the former Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, since 2003.
That's Bloomberg's Tiwa Adebayo in London. And in an interview on Bloomberg TV on Thursday, co-chief executive officer of Netflix, Ted Sarandos, gave more details into the bidding war for Warner Brothers Discovery with Paramount Skydance, owned by the Ellison family, who claim they can close the sale faster than Netflix.
I don't know why the Ellisons intimate that they have some direct line to the Department of Justice for faster path of clearance, but I doubt that they do. This is a process that is being run by the Department of Justice. The president has been very clear on that. We've been very clear on that. The Department of Justice published in 2023 the guidelines for mergers that they are following right now. So that's what's happening here. This is a business deal, not a political deal.
Sarandos also says Netflix's bid to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery will lead to more films being released in theaters, something that Hollywood has been complaining about. Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis President Neil Kashkari says recent comments by National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett, which are critical of a New York Fed study on tariffs, undermines the central bank's independence. Kashkari says the comments were, quote, just another step to try to compromise the Fed's independence. Hassett had called this study, which showed U.S. companies were bearing most of the burden from President Trump's tariff hikes, an embarrassment. Despite all the tariffs, the U.S. trade deficit widening in December to $70.3 billion, resulting in a full-year deficit of just over $900 billion, one of the largest in data back to 1960. The trade data was notably volatile in 2025 due to persistent tariff announcements from President Trump. Gold and pharmaceutical imports were particularly choppy as companies raced to beat higher duties. Bloomberg's Michael McKee on what this could mean for tomorrow's GDP numbers.
Basically, when people thought they were going to be tariffed, everybody moved their gold from Europe to the U.S., and now they're sending it out back again. So that's had a big impact on it. That doesn't go directly into GDP. So part of this goes away. It is the trade deficit rising as much as it did will make a little bit lower GDP numbers, but people aren't revising their forecast for tomorrow down too much.
That's Bloomberg's Michael McKee. We get those numbers in the morning at 8:30 Wall Street time. Johnson & Johnson is preparing a potential sale of its orthopedics unit, with big buyout firms already circling. The unit could be valued at more than $20 billion in a sale and could also draw interest from rival medical device players. Amazon has officially dethroned Walmart as the biggest global company by revenue. The e-commerce giant reported 2025 sales of $717 billion, while Walmart reported sales of $713.2 billion. Amazon's growth rests largely on the importance of its cloud computing business, Amazon Web Services, which contributed to its revenue dominance. Amazon's revenue has increased at almost 10 times the pace of Walmart's, fueled by a shift in consumer spending from stores to websites, as well as the cloud computing business. In a thriller, the U.S. women's Olympic hockey team knocking off Canada 2-1 in overtime to win gold as Megan Keller scores at the 4:07 mark of OT. The U.S. had tied the game at 1 with just over 2 minutes to go in the third period on a Hillary Knight goal. The gold is the third for the U.S. in women's Olympic hockey. Norway, though, continues to lead the overall medal count at the Milan Cortina Olympics with 34, while also leading with 16 golds. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Dan Schwartzman, and this is Bloomberg.